Hello, and welcome to an episode of Scavenger Life. This is episode number 132 on scavengerlife.com. I hope that's the right number.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of miss eBay Scavengers.
You're not supposed to say that.
Scavenger. No, it's good.
Scavenger Life.
I think I'm still just getting used to it. Ultimately, I think it does kind of say what we really are. It's more just Scavenger Life. Even if eBay were to go away, we were still
scavengers. Well, that's something that we posted on the blog this week was a video of us harvesting honey. So if you haven't seen that, you can go see that. That's something that we did last weekend.
Yeah, we talked about it in last week's podcast, and we had made a little short video. Definitely not a how-to of how to harvest honey. Just kind of give people an idea of, like, that's another way we scavenge, is like we raise bees, we get enough honey for us for more, for baking, for everything.
You know? It's a lot of honey for giving away mostly.
And if you know, if you buy especially good honey, like organic honey, it's not cheap. So
organic raw honey, that's exactly what it is. And yeah, it's like $15 a jar, which is why people tell us we should sell it, but right. It's not enough money to sell.
And today we're actually doing the podcast from the other house that we had bought, the rental house.
Yes.
And all weekend, we're very tired. We were up late last night. We're cleaning this house because it's about 95% complete. And
yes.
We're into the stages now where if you've ever worked on a house before, in the stages where the construction's done and now you're like cleaning up all the dust the dirt and the glue. And
I think I was sneezing like all night before we went to bed because it's just all the construction dust is in my head.
And like it always amazes me when a house goes from, guys walking around in dirty clothes and you're just cutting right in the middle of the room, and then suddenly you clean it all up and it looks like the kind of house that someone lives in,
Yeah, and part of it was we've been buying furniture for the house, so we've been kind of motivating ourselves to clean because we're bringing the furniture in because there's nowhere else to put it. So we're like, we got to put these couches in here and we got to vacuum.
So it's a Sunday and we're going to do a bit more work today and just try and get it done. So that's why maybe it might sound a little different in here.
Yeah, it sounds a little echoey because it's a bit empty.
Okay, so this is how our week went this week. How was your week?
Yes.
And, I always like to start with the numbers.
Yes, and, you do.
This guy. So we grossed about $2,500 this week.
Whoa!
Which is much better than we've been doing. And a lot of that is because we had some high price sales this week.
Let's talk about the high price sale that you will see on our numbers.
Go for it.
Now, this is a pretty funny story. So we sold a pack of playing cards from the 1800s.
And we sold it for $600.
We sold it for $600.
Amazing.
Which is a very high sale for such a small item.
And we had talked about this previously there where we had bought like a little owl-shaped table.
Yeah.
And that's what we were buying. And we bought the table for $8. And they just happened to come with a bunch of playing cards. And we've talked about it before because we've been selling the cards for $20 and $30 a deck, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And then Ryan did the amazing thing.
Yeah, so the amazing thing was this. I'm listing these playing cards, right? I had 2 sets of them. One I had listed a few months ago and was done with. The second half we had taken a long time to take pictures of because it was a pain to take pictures of all these playing cards. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm just going to get through the listings. And I'm looking at this one set of cards and I'm just like, these are old and they're really, really cool. I didn't think they were worth $600, but there was another set on eBay that had sold on auction it was like $580. And I was like, these look exactly like that. It was a different pattern. Theirs had a monkey on it. Ours had an owl on it. And I was like, you know what? Again, this is what I do when I'm like not quite sure. I'm going to put $5.99, make an offer. So within a couple hours, I started getting offers on it. One was like, whatever, like $75. I'm like, no. One was $350.
And we almost took it. We were like, come on, that's like it's free money.
But I was like, that other set sold for almost $600. So we go to bed And we wake up in the morning and it had sold for full price to someone in Australia.
Actually, the reality was I got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom and I come back to bed and Ryan's like, we sold it.
Oh, it was in the middle of the night. Yeah, that's right. We had both gotten up at like 3 a.m.
So anyway, I mean, if you're an eBay seller like us, you know those are really exciting sales. Sometimes like this, they come out of the blue. We had no idea what we had. But it's a good example of taking time to do the research. And if you do that, then, you know, surprising things may happen.
Now, this was one of those situations where there was one other seller who had them. And I was really lucky to find that because I could not find any other card deck that looked like this. I found the same brand, but I could not find anything that looked like it. So that was kind of a question for us where we're like, should we do something like Terapeak where I will see a few years worth of auctions on these? So I don't know. That's a question we still have, but
we don't like to pay the subscription fees for those kind of services. So anyway, it's good. I mean, when things like this happen, I'm just like, I can't believe we do this for a living. You know, like that $600 pays for so many bills for a month. You know, it's just, and that's again why we love to sell kind of one of a kind vintage stuff, because it's, you know, you're selling something that all these people want and they buy it because they rarely see it. Like we learned that there's all these places where people talk about collecting vintage cards, and what they say is, if you see something, you better buy it right away because
you'll never see it.
You'll never see it again, and that's why people are willing to pay those kind of prices because of the rarity of them. And so that's again why it's more interesting for us to do this and selling, you know, Cocoa Puffs or whatever, where, you know, the price is very well known. There's a lot of competition, and, you know, it's just
well, and that's the fun of it too. You know, like I'm kind of schlepping through these playing cards, and they're fun and they're cool and they're collectible, but to find one like this, I just had no idea. I thought, you know what, max 120. I thought I was going to get 120 for those. I was very surprised and happy. That was a great sale. But as Jay says, those are rare sales. You know, we do not make a sale like that very often. Yeah,
it's just, you know, it's just like why people love those TV shows, Storage Wars and everything, just because, you know, that's the treasure hunting, that's the wow moment.
The wow factor.
The wow factor.
Yeah, that's the wow factor.
You know, there's very, you know, you can't really, you can't predict its moments, and, you know, that's, but I think what's interesting though is that these sales are awesome, but they only happen because we're listing many, many less valuable items. You know, like Ryan said, this happened because she was just putting her head down one day and just listing a lot of lower priced items, you know, and just not a whole lot of fun, not very glamorous, but then this popped up.
Something just popped up and I took a little extra time and that paid off.
We sold 42 items this week, and actually we were selling a lot of very low cost items, like under $20. Like for some reason people were going through and buying some really low price items that we've had in our store for a while, which is great. And that's just really the bread and butter. And we made a lot of money on that just because we sold a lot of those little tiny items.
Yeah, for some reason I had a few sales of like things that were in my store for $12, which is great because I love selling those things because it proves to me that you can sell almost anything on eBay. Like a little snow globe, $12. You know?
Yeah, speaking of, it's the middle of summertime and we sold, it's like a Christmas ornament thing.
Yeah,
you know? So
I mean, we've been selling jackets, sweaters, and Christmas ornaments. We sold 2 Christmassy type things. So yeah, who knows why people are buying ahead of time.
Yeah, but you know, so I know everyone, especially on YouTube, I see all those videos where people show all the like home runs that people have, which is cool. I love talking about it. It's really interesting here. But just, you know, if you're getting into this and we get these emails about people, they're trying to do this for a living, just understand your living's going to happen off of $30 items.
Right.
You know?
Not $600 items.
Yeah. It's going to, those are cool and they happen, but I just want to bring the excitement down a little bit, you know.
Right. I was definitely excited when it happened, but I think, you know, it's good to look forward to things like that. You will find things like that.
Well, I think too it's about being prepared for those kind of moments, because you know, I bet there are people that if they had this card, because they're just like in a big box of stuff, they might have just taken it and put it up for $10.
Yeah.
And just gone to town, you know.
Or listed all of those cards as a lot.
Yeah, just did a big lot. So, you know, a lot of it too is being prepared and taking the time and taking a lot of photos and all that.
Right.
So the other thing we sold, you know, speaking of, you know, not selling things that it's one of a kind, was we sold Ryan's iPhone.
Yeah, so we had put up a post this week about how Jay had switched to Ting, the phone service, and
Ting.com.
Ting.com, yeah. And then I was going to switch my phone over after we felt it was successful. So I put my phone up to sell. I bought one on Ting for $250. It's an iPhone 5. And then I sold my iPhone 5, the exact same model, but it was an AT&T phone, it was $380.
And so here's where I would like to, which I think is interesting. So number one is, we just decided to buy the phone just right from this phone company because they just kind of guaranteed everything.
Yeah.
You know? And it was easy. We didn't have to screw around with a seller we didn't know. Because my experience is when we're buying like high-end electronics like that, especially if they aren't brand new, that it can be a little bit skeezy sometimes. So $250 was about the average price for an iPhone 5.
That was the lower end price because they give you, like, you can get a pristine phone or you can get one that might have scratches on it. Well,
we don't mind scratches.
I don't care about scratches. And the great thing was, there was a scratch, but it was on the back, so I didn't care.
And so the interesting thing is, so why did the one we sell for $380? And I think the reason is this. Number one is, we sold it unlocked, which, if you aren't technical, just means that we had gone through its process to allow the phone to use almost any kind of SIM card. Right. So that means it could be used in other countries.
Right. So this guy who wrote to me was, I think, going to bring it over to Asia and use it. He lived in the United States, but he was like really making sure it was unlocked. And that was valuable to him. Like, he can throw any SIM card in and it's ready to go.
So if you're technical, you know, those are the kind of things that you can upsell on that kind of equipment, is that if you unlock it. And, you know, that's a thing that made us different from the millions of other iPhones out there that were, you know, the exact same, just they were not unlocked.
It was unlocked, and also I personally keep my phones in, like, pristine condition for this very reason, because I know I'm going to resell them eventually.
In the original box. That's something that I can't take so much credit because I'm tougher on, it's my phones, but most of our iPhones, we've always sold for more than we buy them for. Because for some reason, things like iPhones, and I'm not sure if it's true with Androids, but iPhones seem to keep their value. If you kind of time it right, like... If you sold the iPhone 5, which is still, there's a 5S now, relatively new.
Right.
I held my one for too long, so I had like a 3G.
I think it's a 4
year. Yeah.
Something
and
like that.
By the time I was ready to sell, they were already 3 generations ahead, and my phone wasn't really worth much.
I think we just have it as a backup.
So... I mean, that's a kind of cool thing when you're talking about technology. If you're willing to kind of keep trading up but selling your old stuff, you can actually kind of subsidize that upgrade.
New one. Yeah, exactly. And I've heard friends of ours who, with their laptops, they will buy a new laptop every year and a half because they basically just cash in. You know, the one they have is still good, but they want to upgrade just a little bit. And they'll, you know, make most of their money back. I'm not like that with laptops, but that's another way to do it.
Yeah, and, you know, the only real purpose of us selling Ryan's phone was we just wanted to switch her over to this its phone service we have. And, man, I am psyched. Like, you know, our phone bills for the same service is like under a third of what I was paying.
A fraction of it.
I just feel like a real dummy for doing that.
But I feel like Ting, I don't know how long Ting has been around, but I never heard of it before someone said it on Twitter.
The thing I don't understand is, Ting works through Sprint, and there's all these other little small companies, TrackPhone and...
Yeah, Mobile USA.
And it's Metro PCS, and it seems like they buy bulk broadband or bandwidth from the other phone companies and then resell it cheaper. So it's just strange why these big companies would give themselves competition. I don't quite get it.
Yeah, I don't get that. If someone else can explain that to us, I would love to know what the deal is.
But if you're paying, more than, $100 or more for your phone, man, there's so many other options right now.
I wonder if the FCC requires them to do that so that there is not a monopoly. Because they build it, they are the only ones that can build the infrastructure. So, Ting can't build that infrastructure. So...
Yeah, I think, these big phone companies, they buy up the bandwidth.
Right.
They, and then maybe, in these huge auctions, and maybe then they have to keep it open to other companies to buy onto. I don't know. So that's it. Digital scavenging.
Yes.
So the other thing is, everyone's like, it's slow, it's summertime, it's slow. But really, I'm finding like these slow times, they feel like they're a long time, but they're really a short period.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, we've been selling clothes more than it's normal, and I just remember that August is right around the corner. It's like a month away.
Yeah.
And people are starting to go back to school.
Yeah, like I always...
College and...
Well, it's so funny because living in New England, we never went back to school till September. That was like our time. But I know that in southern states, they go back in August. So, it's a different, it starts early with people buying clothes and backpacks and, stuff like that, shoes.
And like I'm always trying to remind us, ourselves, is that, we're a retailers basically. And the retail industry has done a really good job. They make all these like times of the year where they're trying to get everyone to buy, and there's advertising out there. So we don't have cable TV, but I can imagine from growing up, there's all these commercials on TV about like back to school sales.
Exactly.
But nowadays people just go online and they aren't just buying from the big retailers, they're buying from people like us.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, absolutely.
So, if you're trying to grow a business, just remember that there's this flow of the retail market, and it's up and down, but mainly I feel like it's mainly up as long as you have a lot of inventory.
Yeah. It's like we say always in every podcast, it is a numbers game. You have to put your head down and list stuff like that random like $12 stuff. Now, I don't recommend always putting stuff up for $12, but that stuff that we got for $12 was from box lots at the auction.
It was basically free.
It was like basically just free stuff that I was like, I know someone will buy this, and they did. So sometimes you just have to go on a listing spree of that stuff.
I think the other thing too is as we, started doing eBay and it became a business for us, I feel like we started to plan our budget based on the slowest month we had in a year. So, we are planning, our budget expenses are covered by the slowest month of eBay, which is like about June is normally the slowest month. Yeah. And the slowest month will always pay for all of our bills. Right. And then when times are really hot, we have just an excess of money that we can invest in other parts of our business. And,
save it for when it's June.
Because if you're doing this, you have to think about your own retirement and healthcare. And
paying your taxes, stuff like that.
All that stuff.
So this morning we had been cleaning all day yesterday, like all day until 10 o'clock at night, like crazy. We were exhausted.
I feel like we didn't go to bed till about 1 o'clock.
We didn't. We worked a long time, which was good because we really needed to do that.
I felt like an old man too because I was like taking Tylenol because I was so sore from like picking up boxes and furniture.
Oh my god! But like the thing was, we were exhausted, so we were so tired this morning, and then our phones gave us this message at 9 a.m. This couple that bought a piece of furniture from us last month when we were traveling finally came to pick it up because they could only pick it up because
they live about 3 hours away, so they were just waiting for a time when they would be up in our area, and that was today.
That was this morning at 9 a.m. Yep. So that was a little crazy because we were exhausted. But it was cool to actually meet someone. We've had other furniture pickups, but for some reason we were out of town and someone else had to coordinate it for us. But it's kind of cool to be able to meet people in person.
And it's good. It's for us because we've been doing this experiment, putting up furniture for a big amount of profit, and people are willing to drive where we live and to pick it up. Yeah. And that makes us feel very good.
The cool thing about this piece was it was a record storage cabinet. And I think I showed a picture of it on the blog once. And these people were big record collectors. So they were actually going to use it to store records, which was so great. I love that they were the perfect people for that piece.
Yeah. To us, it's neat. And it is interesting, though, about doing a local pickup on eBay because there's really no way to verify that they picked it up.
Right.
And it does start to become a little bit more like Craigslist, where it's all based on kind of trust. People say, snap a picture of the car and the license plate, but there's also, it's messages back and forth where she was like, I'll be right there.
Yeah, I'll be there in half an hour, you know, so.
I don't know. I think it's one of those things where I see people go on in the eBay forums about how dangerous it is, and I'm just like, with all this stuff online, there has to be some level of trust and,
Yeah, it is kind of a weird system. You're like, how would you verify that it was picked up with eBay? What is eBay's standards for verifying that someone picked it up? I would really have to look that up.
It's also one of those weird things that eBay has where they allow a local pickup. It's not like something we're doing a hack on eBay.
Yeah.
So it's strange that they don't really have a
backup.
They don't have a system for how it works.
Yeah, it is weird. So I need to research that a little bit more.
So yesterday, it's just, again, this happens a lot to us. We're driving from our main house where we live to a rental house where we're now cleaning up. And it's about 10 miles or so. It took us about 2 hours to make that 10-mile drive because it was Saturday, and there were just yard sales all along the way that we weren't expecting to go to, but how do you not go to them?
How can you not stop?
I don't know how people can't find stuff to sell. By the time we got to do the work we were planning to do, we had a truckload full of stuff.
Well, Jay laughed at me because I made a joke. We stopped to get donuts. There's this little store that makes homemade fresh donuts on Saturdays, which I live for. Jay laughs at me. I'm like, can we get up early and go get donuts? I was like, are we ever going to get to the house? Because we keep stopping.
But, how do you pass this up? We probably spent about $70, but got so much stuff. And one of the things is, we like to do experiments.
This is an experiment.
The Barbie experiment. We have never gotten into selling Barbies, but I know that some people really get into it. And we stopped by one of these, this is woman and her child.
Yes.
Had all these Barbies. There must have been 300 Barbies new in the boxes.
Yep. But that was key.
They weren't that old, maybe from the 90s.
They were from the 80s and 90s. The ones that we got a set of international Barbies from around the world.
She said it was her mother-in-law's who had passed away.
Right.
So she was trying to sell them for $5 each. We do what we always do. We bundled.
Yeah.
We picked the ones that we thought were interesting. We didn't really know. It was about $20 one of them. We got them for $50. So it was a little more than $2 each. But, new in the box. And here's the issue when people say, well, you should take out your phone and research.
Yeah.
This is one of those things where you can't really do that. It's us in a little small garage with the person who is...
She's sitting right there.
Selling them. There's no one else there. I can't really pull out my phone and start to research them because then she's not willing to make a deal because she
knows I'm a reseller.
I'm a reseller. So that's why we do these experiments, because we just get them for as cheap as we can, and we'll at least make our money back.
Yeah, the thing was, for me, number one, I thought that I was laughing because these international Barbies were so hilarious.
It's like Thai Barbie and Chinese Barbie.
Kenyan Barbie, Indonesian
Irish Barbie.
Yeah, like, I was just like, I can't even believe that these exist. These are so funny. I just thought they were so cool. I mean, I don't care anything about Barbies. I did when I was 5, but now I don't.
Yeah.
But so I was like, okay, she wants $5 each. If we do a whole box... Basically, I was like, how much money do I have in my bag? Okay, I have about $50. I have a little more than that. But I was like, basically, I handed her $50. And she was like, I didn't think she was going to get a better deal that day.
Right.
So that was good.
And, this is good for us because we like to learn new things. And this is where, we went home and started to do is research. And, saw some of them don't sell for much. Some of them sell... for more.
Yeah.
We're thinking about maybe selling a lot of them because people like just to get a big
collection. Yeah.
We'll see. And, maybe we'll make some money. Maybe we won't. But again, it's all about these experiments,
Right. And for me, the thing that made it cool was that they were the international Barbies. She had a whole bunch of other, like, sweetheart Barbie, and I was just like, I don't care about that. So there had to be a little aspect of interest, It had to be like, these are cool because...
Well, I think that's going by, people will ask us, well, how do you know what to buy? And really, we just went by our gut.
Yeah.
We like to travel, so the international Barbie seemed interesting because it was like Barbies from around the world.
Yeah, which I thought was so fun.
That was interesting to us. That made it interesting for us to do its research. Yeah, sweetheart Barbie at the prom, not so interesting.
Right.
Maybe it's worth more, but that's also part of its research. As I was starting to type it in, I started to notice which Barbies sell for more money, like what time frame. It seems like if they're from the 60s, they sell for more.
Oh, yeah.
So,
definitely.
Those are things where then, as I'm doing this experiment, even if we don't make a whole lot of money on this, I'm now better prepared for when we're out and about. And if I see one of these Barbies that sell for $300, then I'll have a better idea of which ones will sell.
Exactly. And it's those experiments that give you the experience to know for next time. Like Jay said, we might not make a ton of money. We'll definitely make our money back. But now we can kind of keep an eye out for stuff like that.
Barbie.
Irish Barbie.
Yeah.
Norwegian Barbie.
Yeah. Mexican Barbie.
Canadian What would Canadian Barbie look like?
I don't think there was one. So
I know. She'd have like a Maple Leafs jersey.
And they really all just looked the same. They just had like different colors and clothes. So
yeah, it's the same doll. It's just different colors.
So interesting. It's just like Beanie Babies. I mean,
yeah.
That's one reason why we don't really get into that kind of stuff too much because it's not so practical.
I don't know. I mean, also, like, it's the ones that we found. I mean, they're all just made in China. They're not from the 50s. Those are the ones that people pay big money for. Yeah. But, I think it'll be funny. I think it'll be fun.
Whatever. Anyway, so okay, we're let's talk real quick about this rental house we're in. It really honestly isn't gonna probably get rented till next
spring and summer.
Because we still have some things to do on it, but we're getting there. But one of the things I've talked about is it's going to be a challenge for us to see if we can furnish an entire house in a scavenger way.
Yeah.
And when I mentioned that several months ago, someone on the blog had been like, you got to go to estate sales.
Right.
Because people are offloading really high-end furniture for cheap. And, that is a logical thing, and you know what? It's proven true.
Yep.
Like, we have one room downstairs where we only paid about $600 for all this beautiful furniture.
Yeah, now, the couches they're Danish modern, all leather antique. We paid $300 for those. Then there's a table... There's a lamp, there's a side table, there's another chair. Yeah, it was about $600.
Like solid wood, really stylish, super nice. Yeah, so, I mean that's insane,
Yeah, it's crazy how low the prices are.
But the way it worked is I was starting to just kind of go on Craigslist in the closest big urban area to just kind of scour it and keep an eye out. And, one way is just to start to buy stuff because we just need it. But what seemed to be more fun is that we've just kind of allowed it to happen. So we've been buying piece by piece, and because we have time,
right,
we can wait till the good deals happen, and it's happened.
Like yesterday, we were at it's kind of an estate sale, and they had these chairs. And at first, I thought they were really ugly. They're like lime green, not lime green, like wasabi green. Kiwi, like kind of a rich green leather chair. But they don't have arms, and they're not too puffy, but they are like comfortable. And Jay was like, those are the perfect chairs for this like dining room area. Like basically like a little coffee nook. And I was like, I don't know about that. And then I looked at them again, and I was like, yes, we should definitely get those. And so we came home. We paid $175 for the pair, which to me is pricey because I'm cheap as hell. But then we like looked it up. They're from Crate and Barrel. And Crate and Barrel sells chairs like that for like $700 each. Yeah. So that's a crazy deal that we got.
Yeah, sometimes it's tough shopping with Ryan, but if it's more than $10 for anything...
I'm so cheap.
It's kind of like pulling teeth. But
the good thing is every time we've bought something, I have not regretted it afterwards. I'm like, okay, you were totally right. That is perfect, and we got a deal.
I now have that on tape.
I'm going to edit that out.
Just so you know that. But so that's good. And, I'm sure other people out there have done the exact same thing. If you have the time, you just have to kind of like... It's almost... I even make a list on... It's my phone. I have an application where I can just type in a list of stuff. And I make a list of things I think we need.
Yeah.
So that way, when we're out and about, going about our lives... You just run across this stuff.
Right.
And sometimes it's kind of cooler than me just buying it because happenstance puts these cool styles and things in our way that I would have never thought to buy.
Like the couch we're sitting on right now is this like gorgeous, like chocolate brown leather couch that just happened to be at the store in our town. And we were just like, let's just get it. We need it. It's the exact right size, the exact right color. And it just happened to be there.
And it's good.
Yeah. So that is working for us so far.
And just speaking of Scavengers, it's New York, it's Manhattan, the new mayor.
Bill de Blasio.
There's a story, and I had actually seen some people tweet about it. They're moving from their home in Park Slope to the mayor's house.
The mansion.
On the Upper East Side.
Yes.
And... just like anyone normal person would, they're putting stuff out on the street as they're cleaning up their house.
Like basically, because, okay, if you've ever been to Park Slope or any parts of Brooklyn, that's what people do. When we talk about it, they do it in Boston, they do it in lots of cities. They put out a free box, and if they have a fence, they hang up clothes on it. And I guess the de Blasios literally were just doing that.
And so people started going by and started realizing like they were giving away all this really cool stuff. And because he's, a politician and, he's
famous now.
People are really going after it because it has more its value than not.
Like one guy is quoted, he's like, I wouldn't have picked this stuff up, but I knew it was the mayor's house, so I grabbed like a ton of stuff, So we'll
link to that on the blog on scavengerslife.com.
When I saw the picture on the article, I was like, if we were in Park Slope, which we hang out there frequently when we go to New York, well, I would have taken that stuff. I wouldn't have known whose house it was.
But, like our interview last week with... Martin, where he finds stuff in people's trash. I mean, that's what we're talking about. A lot of it is people are moving, people are spring cleaning, someone dies, and a lot of people
they get rid of it.
They don't want to have to deal with it, so they just put it out on their curb. Yeah. And that's a kind of trash picking we're talking about.
Yeah, it's not like... I mean, Martin does, for sure, go through the black garbage bags and know if there's garbage juice or not. But, like, the stuff that we do a lot of times it's a free box. Or it's essentially a free box because it's a pair of shoes on someone's, fence. And you're like, great, that's definitely for free. So that was a pretty funny story.
This last thing we wanted to talk about is, I don't want to get too deep into it because it starts to get into the deep darkness of the eBay of forums. But, eBay's having this new defect rating that comes into effect in August. And, if you're new, because we're getting emails, people being worried about it, like if you're new, basically don't worry about it. Yeah. But it is interesting. We'll link to it. The Danny Ackerman, is that
Danny Ackerman, yeah.
I know, she's got that site, the Danny app. She actually wrote a letter to the president of eBay, John Donahue, and we'll link to it. And it's actually a really good kind of explanation of why their defect rating is kind of screwy. Yeah. And, a lot of it just has to do with the fact that once someone buys an object from you, an item, if they want to ask a question, the way eBay has it set up, that question becomes a case. Yeah. And then, and normally that's not a big deal. So it's a case, you address it, and then the case gets closed. The issue is this new defect, it's rating, just having a case opened, which means just having someone ask a question, counts as a defect, whether you close it or not. Right. I know people say that that's not true or there's confusion about it, but mainly it happens over where is my item. And this happens because if you sold it, you send it out the next day, it's got the tracking on it, and the post office is just slow or they mis-scan it. Or
the person has a forwarding address and they're ridiculous and don't realize that. Just stuff like that.
And, if the thing doesn't come a next day, sometimes a seller will just write you a question, where's my item? And you just have to tell them, it's got to be on its way. On its way. But it's really out of your hands. That's now a defect. So it's a little bit of a pain in the ass, And so I have a couple of theories about this. Okay. Yep. So I'm thinking about being in the mind of eBay. Right. So there's a couple ways they could be thinking about it. They could be like, okay, we know that there's a lot of sellers on eBay who are just running like a drop ship business. Right. Where they're just putting all kinds of listings up. They don't have any of the items. And then when someone buys it, they go to their drop shipper and they say, can you mail this item to the person? Yeah. And then that drop shipper's like, well, it's going to take 2 weeks. Or the person realizes that the price of the item has gone up since they actually put it online. Right. And there are problems with that where they have to cancel the item or it takes too long. Forever, yeah. So I can imagine eBay's trying to get those kind of sellers. They're trying to punish them because that gives it a bad experience for a buyer, and that hurts us all. Yeah. So that's my good kind of thinking about how eBay. But the other way, a worse way to think about it is just that eBay's like, we are a publicly traded company. Yep. We have to make more money every year to make our stock go up, to make people happy. And one way to do it is we need to cut down on top-rated sellers. And how do we do that? We just make it really hard to be a top-rated seller, because if they don't have to pay that 20% the discount, fees. I mean, if you do that across the hundreds of thousands of sellers out there, that could be, I don't know, millions of dollars that they'll make. Right. It's like a number crunching thing. Right. So this doesn't become just the darkness of the eBay community forums where they think eBay's out to eat them alive. Really, eBay is just kind of a big, faceless company. Yeah. And that's just how I see it. They're just a big, faceless corporation, and we'll still sell no matter what, you know? And we'll use eBay as long as we can. And we have no loyalty to them. And when it stops being profitable, it's for us. We'll just go somewhere else, I mean, if it stops being profitable we've always said this, because everyone's always like, what's the alternative, And if there's a better alternative than eBay for making money, we'll go there. And I think that's the positive example. Instead of seeing this as a negative thing, I see it very positive. I mean, all of us, we all sell on eBay and we're all connected. Yeah. And as soon as a better service comes up, or if eBay goes a little too far and a better service comes up, we'll all just move over there and make just as much money over there, and it'll be fine. Right. So I think the power is always in our hands, you know? Just like with Amazon. Amazon's come along, and a lot of people are now selling on Amazon and making good it's money there. So I think it's a good thing. Yeah,
we'll see what happens. I mean, I definitely have had some situations lately where I felt like eBay was not really on my side, but you know, I just kind of like stuck it out and just went with it because I'm like...
Right, because I think we've been through several of these cycles where eBay will bring up some new rule. They do this long rollout. Yeah. And it seems like their customer service reps don't really know what the new rules are. Yeah. So they just kind of say no to everything.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
And so you just kind of get stuck with the worst of all worlds.
Right.
And yeah, it feels a little bit like not good.
Yeah.
Because you're dealing with people on the phone that don't seem to know as much as we do.
There have been several people lately on the phone because I've called a few times about a couple defect issues, and one person I had to actually just be like, I gotta go and recall because they had no idea what they were talking about. Even the things I was mentioning, they didn't, things I was asking about, they didn't know what I was talking about. So yeah, that's tough when you're like, I actually know more than the people at the help center. That's not good.
But if you are a new seller on eBay and you're listening to this and you're hearing us, and I'm sure maybe you're reading other forums and you hear a lot of doom and gloom and fear, here's the bottom line. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah.
This is like inside baseball stuff we're talking about. Treat customers the way you want to be treated.
Right.
List. Don't sell junk.
Yeah.
Scavenge interesting and useful, valuable items. Have a big view of its business, that one bad experience with one customer is not going to ruin your business.
Right.
And just that the goal is, I'm assuming, if you're like us, you just want to be independent,
Yeah.
You just want to own your time.
Right. And the good thing is about those defect rates, I mean, it can cut off your, top-rated seller status. But really, like, when we've been off of the top-rated seller status, we still sell as much as normal.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the big deal?
I feel like I'm getting put back into high school where it's like if you don't make the dean's list, it means something, when really in the big picture of things, it doesn't mean anything. Nothing. I mean, the most important thing is you're learning something and you're learning a skill. And that's what all of us are doing here. We're learning how to sell online. Currently, we're talking about selling on eBay.
Right.
But eBay's just one platform.
Right,
and
exactly.
Like I said before, when something else better comes along for people like us that sell one-of-a-kind vintage stuff, then that's where we'll go.
Exactly. So don't worry about it, but we do want to still be talking about it.
Yeah. So we will link to that Danny Ackerman letter, because I think she does a good job kind of doing it in a very sober way, kind of explaining it's what the problem is. And we've seen eBay do that before, where if they kind of see it's grumbling out there, they'll kind of... moderate the changes that they bring up. So
right.
We'll see.
We've seen that before.
Are you ready to answer some questions this week?
Are you? Okay.
So people send us it's questions. They can email us from the blog, and we'll answer them every week. Another way to do it is just to get into the comments, and you can ask a question on any of our blog posts, and us and other people will be glad to answer if you're trying to find an answer quicker. This week, we have a question from Karen. She says, do you have any suggestions on how to become a liquidator for a store and sell their product delivered to our home to sell on eBay? So we don't know a lot about this. But if I'm understanding the question, what happens is there are these sites where basically they're selling stuff for really cheap, and they're looking for people to resell those things. So...
Right, so it's a liquidation of like a big box store or something.
I guess so, but there are sites where they're always liquidating everything. Like, I guess it's a fire sale site where they find businesses.
Right.
Like, we interviewed that one couple in Australia that said they did that. They bought like I don't know how much they spent. Maybe they'll write in. I forgot it was like $3,000 or $10,000.
Oh, on office stuff.
Yeah, like all this office stuff. Here's our issue with that. It doesn't sound interesting to us because very often the stuff that they're trying to sell to you is just kind of like cheap Chinese-made stuff.
Yeah. You know? And two other things. You have to have that upfront cost. Like you said, Sam and Sharon, I think they paid like $10,000. And then you have to have storage. Big storage.
Right.
Like you have to be able to put, massive liquidation amounts somewhere.
Yeah. I was fine like buying a lot of product in bulk. It just seems like that's not where the problem is. The problem isn't buying a lot of stuff because you can buy a lot of stuff anywhere, The key is you want to buy product that actually excites you because you're going to have to live with that stuff. Either you're going to have it in your home or your garage. Yep. You're going to have to be shipping it every day and you're going to have to list it and answer its questions.
Yep.
But if you're just selling, again, like cheap Chinese stuff, it just might not be interesting to you.
But, basically, if you do want to do that, you just go on the sites and it's like an online auction, or they might have fixed prices and then you just have to pay for shipping and they just send it to you. It's not anything different.
And plus, and again, I don't know what kind of site or store you're talking about, so we may not be talking about the same thing. But the kind of sites I've seen, it's almost like you're becoming what do you call those things? Where it's like a multi-level, it's marketing
scheme,
where someone's trying to sell you a big box of like cosmetics that then you have to go out and sell.
Right.
I mean, it just seems like if you can buy things that anyone else can buy, then that's all your competition. So why is that any good?
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's our theory. So John asks, with all the HTML hype about it being bad for your listing in eBay, I was wondering if you still recommend using Garage Sale for the Mac. I've also recently stopped using it for that reason, and I miss it very much.
So when we were at that eBay in-person event, we got to sit down for about 10 minutes with, I guess he was like head of customer service, or I don't know what he was about. But we asked him about that, and we showed him our site because we have a template, an HTML template. What he said was, it's not that eBay says you can't use HTML. What they say is, it just has to be well formatted.
For mobile, that's the thing. Anybody can see your HTML template on their laptop. But if they're on their iPad or their Android or their iPhone, if your template, I was looking at a listing the other day of someone's, and their template didn't like squish down. It was just big and it wouldn't let me scroll over, so I couldn't read their description. You're not going to get a sale, or you're going to get a sale and someone's going to say, item not as described.
That's what eBay doesn't want. The other thing is eBay also wants you to make sure you don't put all of your info in the HTML. They want you to type it into the
item specifics.
Right.
Yeah. Like, okay, say you're selling a shirt. All the information about the shirt needs to go in eBay's item specifics, even if it's in your description. Because the only way they're going to back you up if someone said the measurements weren't on there is if it's in the item specifics.
Right. So I think that they're trying to help or trying to tell buyers that when they would only put it in the description, that you can't just do it in that format anymore. So it's not about not using HTML. It's just about it using those templates correctly
and formatting them correctly.
And some people don't want to go through that hassle, and and that's fine. But we like doing template because it helps us kind of brand our store. Right.
And if you like Garage Sale, you should test it on the phone, test that template on the phone and the iPad, and just see what it looks like. And if it works, just keep using that.
Especially if it helps you a list, because if you are listing as much because you don't have that template anymore, then that's not helping you at all. It's Casey asks, which route do I take when an eBay buyer doesn't pay?
We have a very specific set of things that we do, which we've talked about before.
We've talked about this multiple times, but it's always good to kind of say things again. We have also been kind of changing it. We've been making it better and better.
Right. So the first thing is if someone doesn't pay, that means it's a best offer that we've accepted. for us. It's not an auction. So what we say is we send them an invoice. And then I send them a message like, hey, I'm going to pack today. So if you pay today, I'll ship it in the morning. That's the first step.
98% of people pay.
Right.
It's all good to go.
So the next step is we send what we call a personal appeal, where Jay has typed up this little paragraph that's like, what does it say?
I mean, it just says like, you made us an offer. We accepted, you are holding up this item from being sold to somebody else. Yep. If you don't want it, please just communicate it with us so we can cancel the transaction, Right. And then we kind of change some of it depending on what they bought. But very often we say, we see you're an experienced buyer on eBay. We just want you to live up to your obligation.
Exactly. So now a large percentage of people will write back and say, I'm so sorry, I was out of town, I didn't have any connection to the internet, whatever. You get some excuse, but they will pay.
Right.
So you've really not shamed them, but you're like, yo,
yeah,
you have an obligation here and we're trying to finish this deal. So most people will pay. If they don't pay, then what I do is I open an unpaid item case, within 24 hours of that appeal, and I request their user information, which includes their phone number.
And that means they get a message from eBay that says, if this person has requested a phone number,
right,
and we've given it to them.
Right. And just remember that they will give that person your phone number too. So it's an equal exchange.
So that creates an expectation that we may actually call to find out about why they haven't sold. And then we get more people at that point that actually pay because they realize there might be some consequences.
Right.
Because also some people don't want an unpaid item thing because if you get several unpaid items,
you can't buy from certain people.
We don't allow people to buy from us if they've had a couple of...
Yeah, if they have 2 unpaid item cases in 6 months.
Right.
So that's bad for buyers.
And then there's going to be about 2% of all buyers that just never pay.
Right. And so we wait for the resolution center to say that I can close that case so that I get my final value feedback. I relist the item and I block that person on my block list.
So wait, that's about 4 days?
It's something like that. It's 4 days after that, yeah.
Yeah. So that's it. We know with people who sell only a handful of items every month that one person that doesn't pay can be kind of a pain in the ass and a big deal. But if someone doesn't want to pay, there's nothing you can do to make them pay.
Yeah, I mean...
The best thing to do is just try and make it as painless as possible and move on.
Just move on, relist it, and block them. Okay, so Chad asks... I listened to your episode regarding vintage slides and came across a large quantity of slides from the 50s and 60s. I listed one slide for $5 and sold it in a couple days.
Wow.
Which is very cool. My question now is, how do I ship one slide cheap and upload tracking information? We have a ton of slides that if sold by the slide will net a big return on it, just a $10 investment. I don't want to lose my top rated status and 20% discount for not uploading tracking. There isn't any tracking info on standard envelopes through USPS, meaning just with a stamp on it. My advice is this. I realize that people do not want to pay the minimum amount for first class that has tracking through eBay. I think the minimum amount is $1.50 versus a 45-cent stamp. I get that, but that's the only way you can do it, is to have people pay that $1.50 or whatever it is, $1.40, to have tracking. See, that's the only way.
I think this is interesting that, I love that he's doing this because I think it's one of those things that people might overlook. You can find these at yard sales and auctions where you'll find a carousel or a box of old slides. And if you can find the Kodachrome,
right,
they are very good at keeping its color, and they're very often very beautiful. And if you can find the ones of people on Hawaiian vacations
in the 50s, yeah,
or close-ups of someone like in a car, like a cool car,
or Disneyland or something.
People will pay for those. Now, we've just always sold them in big lots because we don't want to deal with selling them one by one. But if you're willing to, if you're making $5 or $10 a slide, that's could be big deal. Quite a lot. So the other thing I learned at that eBay in person was I forgot that if you mail something just in an envelope with the stamp on it, there's no way to put tracking on that. And if you can't upload that into eBay, then you're going to get a ding or, on your a shipping time. So I guess the thing that we were talking about earlier was you would put it in a priority envelope?
No, I mean, you can ship first class. Like, I'm assuming, I don't know how you are shipping these to protect them, but if you wrap it in paper and put it in a little bubble mailer, that's going to weigh 1 ounce. I mean, it's going to weigh nothing. That would be able to have first class postage with eBay labels with tracking. I think the minimum for 1 ounce around the entire country is like $1.45. You just need to make people pay that. That's the only answer.
Yeah, okay, cool. So I think that's the answer instead of trying to be cheap and trying to sell it for 45 cents,
That's the answer. That's the only answer. Cool. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Liz, she asks, because we've talked about our garden, she says, what do you guys grow in at your garden? What's your favorite thing? What's the thing that saves us the most by it's planting that food,
Right.
And we just talked about this because, again, being scavengers, how do you save cash? And part of that is growing food. And we honestly really aren't that big or good at gardening. We're like real lazy gardeners.
Yes.
I think the one thing we really love to grow is kale because we love to eat greens. Kale's super easy to grow. It's basically like
a weed.
Big old weed.
Yeah.
And kale is good with anything. We just eat it with as a salad, or you can even cook it with other things.
Well, the way I make the kale salad, and we eat this almost every day. Even when it's winter, we have to buy kale. This is how we eat it. I put it in a bowl that has a top that I can shake, and I do olive oil with soy sauce, not too much soy sauce, a little bit of either apple cider vinegar or balsamic, just a little sprinkle. And then I do various spices, maybe some garlic powder, and I shake it up, and that's it. It is the best thing you've ever eaten. It's so good.
And I like it better than a lettuce because it's crunchier and kind of heartier.
It's heartier, yeah. And it's got lettuce to me is
superfood.
It is a superfood. It has a ton of fiber, and it has a ton of green vitamins like chlorophyll. So it's really, kale is a crazy good thing for you to eat. So we try to grow that as much as possible.
That's our favorite, and we can normally keep it alive from spring until the late fall.
Late fall, yeah.
It kind of just keeps going as long as you pick it and don't allow it to go to seed. But we also like to grow tomatoes. If we get a whole lot of them, we will can them. We grow garlic, and we'll actually do some pictures because we just harvested all of our garlic. We get a big old box of garlic. Yeah. That will last us the whole year.
Yeah.
And and then you just grow more garlic from your old garlic bulb, so it's this great.
Yeah.
It's perfect for scavengers.
Almost perennial. Yeah.
Beans, things like that. But again, we don't really have a crazy garden.
The part about it too is a lot of times for our other work, we travel in the spring and summer. So the last few years we've been traveling a lot during the spring and summer, and it's very hard to maintain a proper garden.
We were just gone for almost a whole month of June, and so kale is really the only thing that can make it through that time because again, it's just like a weed,
Yeah, and I really had to fix it when we got back because a lot of it had been eaten by caterpillars. So
okay, we have a question from Kathy. So she says, do you find it easier to pay it yourself once a month based on sales for that month rather than each week? I think it would be easier to do that after eBay fees are paid at the end of the month. I don't really quite understand. I mean, it's maybe she's got her, Kathy has her own way to do her accounting.
Yeah.
But, we basically think of our business as our life. So we have to pay our bills when we have to pay them. So I don't know. We aren't really like paying ourselves.
I mean, we don't like give ourselves a paycheck. We just like pay for stuff right out of our PayPal account. Like I have a debit card from PayPal and that's how I pay for stuff.
And we don't really take any money out that we don't need to spend. So, I can imagine other people might get into a problem with this. I mean, we never, ever just have an empty PayPal account. Like we're buying stuff and we have fees coming due. We always have money in that PayPal account. So when our PayPal fees are due, they get paid.
Yeah.
Like you never want to get into a thing where you haven't paid PayPal and eBay, because then you stop your business from happening, and you're killing the golden goose.
Yeah, maybe that question isn't great for us because we just use the money we have,
and then we always know it's what our taxes are going to be, so we always have that it's money as well. So I guess the answer it's for us is we're very frugal people, although we have comfortable lives, and we just don't spend a lot, and so that doesn't cause us a big problem about who I pay first and all that.
And also, Jay is obsessively keeping track of our numbers. Every single day he looks at every account that we have through GoDaddy, actually, because all our accounts are linked. And he makes sure, okay, we can pay our mortgage, we can pay eBay, we can pay PayPal, and then we can pay the rest of our bills, and now we need to pay, X amount to go buy furniture.
And I think I only do that because, if you are trying to be independent, you got to know that stuff. And I've seen people get in those problems, and not even people that sell on eBay, just people in general, where just they don't know their finances, and they get surprised when they find themselves in a hole. And I know this is true. If you just get 1 month behind, it is. I can't imagine how hard it would be to make it back. Like if you got behind a month or two on your mortgage, man,
forget it. I don't know.
Then not only do you have to pay next month, you got to pay all the months before that. So that's why we just never get in that situation. If I see things are getting tight, it's a slow month. You know what? Stop everything.
Everything stops. We don't buy furniture. We don't get anything done on the other house.
We don't need to go buy food, mainly because we have a fully packed pantry, so we got lots of food. I mean, we don't have to buy food for 6 months because we got lots of food to eat.
We have a crazy
rice
backlog.
And beans. I mean, it's whatever. But then when things are good, you can go and get like nice food too. So
you can go get a pizza.
You can get a pizza, right?
You can get a cheap $12 pizza.
Right. Ooh, that sounds good.
Oh, that might have to be our dinner in like an hour.
So anyway, that's it for this show. We had an interview set up and they canceled on us just because they had life issues. So I think we're not going to do another podcast this week because we have to finish cleaning this house.
But we hope that this extra long podcast will suffice since we had a lot to talk about.
Yeah, if anyone starts thinking these are getting a little bit too long, just tell us and
we'll crank it down a little maybe.
But hopefully you've just been packing and listing and taking pictures, and we've been all having a little party together.
A little Monday morning chat, or whenever you listen to this. You could be listening to this a year after we recorded it.
Yep. So anyway, go to scavengerlife.com for the blog post, and you can subscribe to us by email or through iTunes, and we always appreciate when that happens.
Okay, see you in the comments.
Bye.
Bye.